I'm Kelsey Frew here at Enterprise Center with Amelia Ickes to talk about the second day of Arch Madness. So, first game of the quarterfinals, we have Loyola number 1 seed Loyola Chicago against number 9 seed Valparaiso. What were your thoughts on this game? What did you think?
Right, so Valparaiso started the game very aggressively. They had about 5 fouls within the first 10 minutes. I think that they were just trying to hold back Loyola, which they didn't effectively do, as throughout most of the game, Loyola held about a 20-point lead over them.
And what were your thoughts? Were there any really standout players to you today?
Right, so Loyola had a lot of really strong players today. About 3 players scored in the double digits, Cameron Krutwig, Marcus Towns, and Lucas Williamson. But of those 3, I would have to say that the most notable player is Cameron Krutwig. In the past MVC championship that he's played in, his scoring high was 11, but today he scored 18 points, so he surpassed that.
How does it look for the Ramblers going on into the semifinals?
Right, so tomorrow they will be playing against Bradley. In the regular season, the Loyola Ramblers defeated them once, but also fell to them once. So I think the chances are kind of questionable. I'm feeling positive, as today they scored above 50% in field goal attempts, so it's looking pretty good for them in this championship.
Awesome, and I actually got a chance to report on the press conference court side, so let's take a look at that. I'm Kelsey Frew here at Enterprise Stadium for the second day of Arch Madness, where number 1 seed Loyola University just faced off against number 9 seed Valparaiso. The Ramblers came out on top in the end with a final score of 67-54 and started the game strong with a 7-0 run right off the bat. The Ramblers proved that the best offense is good defense, and had strong defense throughout the entire game and were able to maintain that lead they got in the beginning. Valparaiso managed to get a 9-0 run over them in the second half, but it wasn't enough for them to get the lead. Coach Porter even said in the post-game conference that your offense can't dictate your defense has to dictate your offense, which turned out to be very true for the Ramblers, as their slow start in the second half could have been a problem had they let it affect their defense. Instead, they came back strong and continued to hold Valparaiso down. This victory marks the 3rd win in a row against Valparaiso throughout the entire tournament. Tomorrow, Loyola will face off against either the Missouri State Bears or the Bradley Braves, whoever wins this next game. So we'll see them at 2:30 tomorrow. For the Rambler Sports Locker, I'm Kelsey Frew. I'm now joined by RSL analyst Eric Moran to talk about the second round of the quarterfinals, the Bradley Braves versus the Missouri State Bears. So Eric, what were your thoughts on the game?
Well, I thought the first half, Missouri State really controlled the game. They had the lead for pretty much all of the first half, and they actually ended it by a score of 29-22. Now, what was interesting about this is junior forward and first-team All-Missouri Valley Conference player on a Missouri State, Tulia Da Silva, only had 0 points. So he had no points at all. There was not a lot of production for him. But despite that, Missouri State, they had to live off of the 3-ball. So they kind of prospered off of the 3-point range, and they actually went 6 for 14 through the 3-point range. But the second half was a completely different story. Bradley was really over. They were able to come the 7-point deficit early in the second half, and then it just went back and forth between both teams. And with 4 minutes left in the second half, it was actually knotted up at 49-49. Now, what I believe made a huge difference in the game was sophomore Elijah Childs. He had an enormous 3-pointer with 4 minutes left. And then so that gave him the lead with 52-49. And then after that, Bradley kept riding that momentum, and then were able to get a 56-49 lead. And unfortunately for Missouri State, they were never quite able to come back into it. In the last minute of the game, they had 2 shots from 3-point range that would have actually tied the game, but they missed both of those. So a lot of missed opportunities down the stretch from Missouri State.
So you mentioned Elijah Childs. Are there any other players that really stood out to you today, or was he just exceptional across the board?
Well, he was with 12 points, but actually guard Darryl Brown had 20 points, and a lot of those points came in the later stages of the game, and he was one of the main factors in the Bradley comeback down the stretch.
And so tomorrow, the Braves will be facing Loyola. What are your thoughts on this matchup for the semifinals?
Well, so I think it's important to take into account that Loyola did lose to Bradley once, and they also beat Bradley once. The first time that they lost to Bradley was earlier in the season, but they did not have Lucas Williamson playing. Now, and then in the second matchup on senior night, Loyola took care of Bradley they handled them pretty well. So I'm not really worried too much for the Ramblers. I think the Ramblers are going to come out on top, and I think they're going to win by a significant margin.
All right, thanks so much, Eric. We also have a courtside report from reporter Ioana Kakados, so let's take a look at that.
For Rambler Sports Locker, I'm Ioana Kakados. It was a close game for the 5th seed Bradley University versus 4th seed Missouri State University, but Bradley came out on top. Bradley has won 8 out of 10 games, and this is a second straight year to the semifinals for the Braves. This will also be a rematch of last year. In the post-game press conference, when junior Darryl Brown was asked why the team is clicking so well, he talked about the tough start to the season and said when people didn't believe in them, they stayed together. In regards to the Loyola matchup tomorrow, the Bradley coach Brian Wardle says we got to be more physical. Tune in tomorrow to see Loyola take on the Bradley Braves at 2:30. For RSL, I'm Ioana Kakados.
Eric also had a chance to talk to Loyola fans about what it took to get here today and what it means to be in the stands. Take it away, Eric.
Conveniently for Loyola students, Arch Madness actually fell during spring break this year. I spoke to some Loyola students about their experience so far at Arch Madness and also the journey of getting here. So just kind of curious, what was kind of the deals that the students got? Also kind of like the hotel, the whole package. Just could you kind of explain that?
Yeah, I have 3 other friends that I came here with, and we did a quad, which for each of us was $50 for the bus, the tickets for all the Loyola games, and our room.
So what made you want to come out to St. Louis and support the Ramblers?
Well, I love this team. We've been with them since freshman year. They really revitalized the culture at Loyola. Spirit wear wasn't really a thing before they got big, and now everyone is proud of who we are. So I just want to try to give back to our team.
Seeing some of these guys in person, they really have some great character, and I mean, it's Arch Madness.
Well, my friends and I, we go to every single basketball game. We go to them religiously. We are the people that line up right away.
Yeah, just kind of curious, what was the experience like getting to St. Louis?
Getting here was actually not that bad. The bus ride was pretty long, 6 hours.
Obviously, you aren't able to get the entire student body here, but what would you say the energy is like, despite, not there being as much numbers as you would like?
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, we have our most passionate students here.
We've been at 10 out of 10 all the time. We love being here.
Well, a lot of the students, I recognize them from being at the games with all of us, because a lot of us are regulars. We're diehard fans that go all the time. And everybody that's here wants to be here. We're all hoping to watch the Ramblers clinch another MVC victory. So we're all very, very excited, cheering very, very hard down there right now. I'm super sweaty if you can't tell, because I'm really, really into it.
For the Rambler Sports Locker, I'm Eric Moran.
That's a wrap on the first 2 games of the quarterfinals. Stay tuned for our coverage of the next 2 quarterfinal games to see who has a shot at that championship trophy. For the Rambler Sports Locker, I'm Kelsey Frew.